Buenos Aires always glowed with a certain greyness before sunrise, part smog, part melancholy, part promise. It wasn't romantic like in the films I obsessively watched on scratched DVDs, but it was real. I learned to love the city's harshness. That morning, standing on the factory floor at dawn, I felt none of that love, just a leaden coldness crawling under my blue-collar overalls. A supervisor, Rodolfo, stalked across the grimy tiles, clipboard in hand. He stopped in front of me and two others, Jorge and Mariana, both older, expressionless, their shoulders stooped further than mine. I'd started this job right after secondary school, and even now, after 4 years, I wasn't used to the endless hum of the machines or the sticky smell of oil. Rodolfo didn't bother trying to soften the blow. The company lost the contract with Renault, he grunted. We have to let some people go. His eyes flicked over our faces like a bored judge, mine lingered on the cracked tiles. I knew what was coming before I heard my name, just didn't expect how hollow his goodbye would sound. Maxie, go home, we'll call if it changes. That was it. A little after 5 a.m. my time in the plant ended, marked only by the squeak of his plastic clipboard and the slow slap of my boots against the oily floor. The air outside was cool, almost gentle, a relief after the sour steam and grinding conveyor belts. Buenos Aires was just waking up, the street lamps blinking out. I shoved my hands deeper in my pockets, heart racing faster than my feet could carry me, as if something would chase me down for dreaming too big. Mom was already up in the kitchen by the time I got home, her hair thinned by dye and years, hands working silently through dough for medialunas. Her back was to me, the kitchen clock groaned just past 6, she didn't look up. Why so early, Hijo? I couldn't answer, the words were stuck under my tongue, clumpy with disappointment and fear. She caught my reflection in the window and frowned. They let you go. I nodded, bracing for the worry sharpening the lines around her eyes. She gripped the dough with her knuckles, flour dusting the air. Maybe now you can try for that warehouse job with your Tio, she tried, too brisk, wanting a quick solution. I slouched at the table. As the kettle shrieked, my mouth unlocked, but not for resignation. I want to make films, Mama, I mumbled. I want to make a real film, not just watch them. It spilled out in a confession I'd rehearsed but never performed. My hands trembled, heart pounding as her face drew up into its familiar mask, half confusion, half quiet disbelief. You always with your Cinny, she sighed. We can't eat a pellicula, Maxi. Your father worked with his hands, so should you. I tried again to explain, the colors I saw in old Astor Piazzolla music, the feelings that made me want to pick up the battered family camcorder and shoot the city's shadows. But words escaped me. I watched my dreams again disappear into her shrug. Our barrio, Lugano, was a rundown stamp of concrete in the city's outskirts. Here, steady work was sacred. Even Jorge and Mariana, my former co-workers, would later pass me by with sympathy bordering on pity. I borrowed the camera my cousin Nico used for college parties. Nico was the only one who didn't laugh openly when I shared my idea. Just shoot stuff, Chi, he whispered. Nobody will notice you anyway. The first weeks were spent capturing dawn over rooftops, kids playing football along broken fence lines, old men arguing about Perón in smoky bars. Each frame felt like a tiny rebellion against futility. I painted stories with light and cheap sound, hitching a ride on scraps of inspiration. My father's older brother, Tio Pepe, told my family at Sunday asado, his voice echoing for the whole table, Maxi wants to be El Proximo Almodovar. They all erupted, even my grandmother. The laughter was dagger-sharp. It's not a real job, someone muttered. He'll be back asking for work at the warehouse by winter, another added, eyes on his wineglass. I was silent. Some fights weren't worth picking. No one wanted to watch my rough cuts or read my ideas. Nico sometimes did, but only late at night after too much beer. A year crawled by. The money from short gigs, editing birthday videos, teaching kids to use iMovie barely covered my bus fare. My friends drifted away, sliding into jobs at the supermarket, the airport, or staying on at the plant. I filmed what I could, but there were whole days I couldn't even push the record button. The ache in my chest grew familiar. I learned not to expect support. I stopped talking about movies at dinner, hiding my notebooks in the dresser drawer. Mom would come home with a tired look and an extra piece of chicken for me, unspoken apology dancing in her eyes. Still, I shot in the fog, in rain. I learned to find stories in stray cats in the face of an old woman selling empanadas at the station. When I watched my footage late at night, I saw pieces of meaning, glimpses of a Buenos Aires that lived beneath the noise. In my third year without steady work, I stumbled onto a story. There was a squat behind an abandoned train depot where families had built homes out of plywood and blue tarp. I started filming kids weaving through the ruins. One girl with eyes too old for her age began following me at sunrise. She led me into their world. Stories, real, urgent, beautiful, tumbled out. Neighbors called me El Loco con la Camara. Sometimes I heard them mimicking me when I passed. No molestin as Spielberg, that strung, but I stopped caring. The squat's residents taught me resilience. They welcomed me after weeks of suspicion, fed me tortas fritas when my own fridge was empty. The girl's name was Milagros. Her family, like so many, had nowhere else to go. Word got out about my project. A documentary about invisibles. Some younger activists in the city helped. I uploaded a video to YouTube. A niche site in Spain shared it. And then, out of nowhere, a film festival in Cordoba invited me to submit the rough cut. I had 30 minutes of hurried footage, a wobbly narrative, and doubts the size of the obelisko, but I sent what I had. The festival wasn't fancy. The theatre was small, seats torn, sound system moody. But when the lights dimmed and my film stumbled across the screen, I felt a quietness in the air that was different from the silence I'd known before. It was charged, waiting, open. When the final shot faded, a sun rising over the squat's blue roofs, Milagros smiling directly at my camera, no one laughed. A woman in the third row, a mother herself, wept openly. They gave me the prize for new voices. After the ceremony, hunched on the curb outside the theatre, drunk with relief, I called home, voice tight. Mama, I told her, they liked it, they really liked it. She paused, her confusion plain. Then she whispered, Felicitations, Hijo. Come home soon. Over the next 2 years, I turned the story into something bigger. Grants came, small at first, then larger as my project gained traction. European journalists reached out about Buenos Aires housing issues. I doubled down, editing late into the night, taking second jobs selling sandwiches, sleeping on couches. Film, I learned, is 90% hustle, 10% spark. Word snuck back to Lugano. Some cousins texted congratulations, but skepticism ran deep. Wait until he's famous, my uncle scoffed at one family party, not realizing I could hear him. Watching me from across the room, Mom gave a tiny, hopeful nod. I returned to the squat, this time with a sound guy and a better camera. Milagros had grown, new scars but still luminous. The families felt proud to see themselves on screens, respected rather than pitied. You kept your promise, one mother told me, gripping my arm. At the international festivals, I was anonymous, a face in the crowd, shoulder to shoulder with other dreamers lugging battered reels. My film never won main prizes, it was too raw, too local, yet word of mouth grew. Journalists introduced me as the young director from Lugano. Someone at Clarin called my film Un retrato honesto de la otra Buenos Aires. I bought 3 copies and gave one to Mom. The invitations came then, first to universities, then to city halls, then finally, absurdly, to the Teatro Colón for an event about modern Argentine voices in cinema. I stood trembling behind the curtain, the old sweat of factory work still living in my pores. But as the lights lifted and my name echoed through the marble corridors, I felt the silence change again. It belonged to me now, to us. A month after the Teatro Colón premiere, the National Museum reached out. We'd like to screen your film, Milagros del Amensa for schools and families. Would you come introduce it? That was the invitation that brought me home, truly home. I phoned Mom. They're showing it at the museum, I told her quietly. I want you there. I could hear her pride shimmering between matching syllables of disbelief and hope. We returned to Lugano that afternoon for Sunday asado. The chimneys still belched, wire fences rattled, boys chased tattered soccer balls across plots of earth. I felt older both more and less than when I left. Word had spread about the screening. Someone had posted the flyer on the church bulletin board. A handful asked, casually but without hiding their curiosity, if I really was that maxi. My Uncle Pepe eyed me from the grills. Mid-turn of the chorizos, he barked, so next Scorsese, they pay you for this or you just make noise. I shrugged, letting a smile play on my lips. Come see for yourself, Tio, Thursday night at the Museo. Everyone's invited. The family dismissed it with a wave, but I caught the flicker in their gazes, doubt wrestling with intrigue. The museum's theatre was cool and dark, seating pressed velvet, walls peeled but stately. I wore my only clean shirt, collar stiff where I'd ironed it with Mom's cracked flatyan. She sat in the second row, flanked by 2 cousins and a neighbour with her granddaughter. My uncle, arms folded, claimed an aisle seat as if expecting traffic. Outside, the late dusk pressed heavy against the windows, boats on the Rio de la Plata drifting in ghostly lines past the city's pulse. A city councilwoman delivered a short speech about new Argentine artists. I stood below the stage, heart in my mouth, blindness searing the edges of my vision. No matter, you can be celebrated in Spain, Berlin, but it matters most here with the people who first called you foolish. The curtains breathed open. For a moment, nothing, just dust, projection light, and the hush of old lungs and young hopes. Then my film began. The squat came alive on that screen. You could see the soft pink of dawn hugging the wrecked train cars, hear Milagros' laughter crackle as she chased pigeons, feel the hunger and hope etched in every face. There was no grand hero, just ordinary people surviving with dignity and humor. My mother's hand clutched her purse while my uncle watched, stone-faced. A scene focused on a mother, not my own but every mother, explaining why she built her home with broken wood. People think we are nothing, she said, but look, here we are family. Silence pulled tighter. When the credits rolled, Milagros' smile lingering in the last frame, the lights lifted slowly. I stepped up, pulse thudding, waiting for some response, any response. At first only shuffling, then like rain swelling from drizzle, applause began, timid, honest, then rolling full. It filled the theater like black coffee, hot and real. I looked for my family. My mom's cheeks were wet. Tio Pepe's jaw twitched. He tried to hide a smile as he clapped just twice, but hard enough that it echoed against velvet seats. The councilwoman turned to my mother, asking in clear voice, "Is this your son?" Mom straightened, pride softening her exhaustion. She, is my hijo, el director. Outside on the museum steps, old friends I hadn't seen in years gathered in knots, whispering. They came to shake my hand, a few asking for autographs, others mumbling, "Never thought I'd see that, Maxie." My uncle clapped me on the back, the gesture rough but warm. A girl from our barrio, a cousin's classmate, blinked at me starstruck. "You make the city look different. Good somehow," she said, shy. I walked the streets that night, the city colder than I remembered but lit from within. The buildings looked less grey, the smog less bitter. I could breathe. I visited the squat the next morning. Milagros ran up to me, hair tangled, a miracle of energy. "My sister saw us at the museum," she boasted, eyes proud. "People know we matter now, right?" I nodded. "They do, because you showed them." I still make films. The city hasn't changed overnight. The factory jobs aren't coming back, and sometimes the doubts return, a kind of hunger in my bones that never quite leaves. But now, when my own people see me with a camera, even the loudest skeptics are quiet. They nod, sometimes even smile and let me pass. One evening, months after the screening, I stood on the old factory floor. The gates were sealed, conveyor belts gone rust brown. I filmed the broken shadows breathing in the silence, a silence no longer heavy with defeat. I sent a cut of the footage to Rodolfo, the old supervisor. He wrote back just one line. "It's good what you do, keep going." I have kept going. Now when I wake before dawn, Buenos Aires doesn't seem so grey. From rejection to dusk, struggle to silence, I found my voice, soft, not grand, but stubborn. I came home not as a hero but as myself. For the first time, that is enough.